We are up to 1920. Still in the pasukim that sound like years.
No, I had that thought last week.
Yeah.
Maybe on like 1916.
Yeah.
And I was like, how could I have never had that thought?
Yeah. I guess you don't learn a lot of chapter 19. Yeah.
Actually, I didn't think about it until you said it.
Oh yeah. Okay. This one is kind of blunt, and I'm worried because it looks simple and it looks obvious. Shema Eitzah v'kabel Mussar. Laman tefkam achri taka. Yeah. So how do you translate it? I couldn't get through it without laughing because it sounds so like pashut.
Listen to advice and receive discipline.
Yeah. I would say probably accept discipline. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would also say that here are our two translations of Mussar, I think, are both candidates. So rebuke would be another, right? Yeah.
Or what was it?
Discipline. Yeah.
So you shall become wise.
Yeah. How do you translate
In your end.
in your end? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this is the introductory.
Yeah. Just now, 19 chapters in, we're getting this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is no Mitzvah Tion. There's no Targum Sadigon. The Targum here, I think, is just a straight up translation. It says, Shema Eitzah v'kabel mardusa metul detis hakam b'sofa. That's, I think, a literal translation.
Yep, right.
Art Scroll says, hear counsel and accept discipline in order that you grow wise in your later days. So that's a little bit more specific than Achri Saka, but Living Knox says, hear advice and accept moral instruction so that you may be wise in the end. I think that's more literal, although they don't say your end. It's really Achri Saka in your end. Alter says, heed counsel and take reproof so that you will get wisdom in the end. Yeah, our translation's better because we're translating it literally. Yeah. All right. Too easy to read. Little suspicious. Oh, I also want to plant a possibility for what we might have to do or want to do. Look at the next pasuk, which is probably one of the better known pasukim in Mishlei. Rabos machshos b'lev ish va'atas Hashem hisakum. Right. So we say this in Yehi Chavod in Pesukah Zimra. So many are the thoughts in the heart or mind of a man, and the counsel of Hashem will prevail. So the only reason I'm thinking these might be related is because Eitzah, right? Because they both talk about Eitzah. So I suspect we can learn this on its own, but I would also not be surprised if they're related. So let's try it on our own today, and this one on its own today, and then like if need be, we can tomorrow. Yeah.
I don't know if this is a known thing, but in Yehi Chavod, like the whole thing is like word association.
Yeah.
So like that's just interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah.
Pasuk, which is from that.
Yeah. In fact, I believe the Rambam has a different Eitzah pasuk than that. Yeah. Utsu Eitzah v'sufar dabru davar v'lo yakum kimano kel. So I mean, it's proving that the main thing is that you have the word Eitzah in there somewhere. Yeah.
I'm noting that the Erie learns something exactly with the last.
Yes, and so does the Bnei Yonah. Yeah, but we won't look there yet. Okay, what are the questions?
What's Afar?
Yeah, what is Afar Yisecha? The question should be pretty straightforward here.
What's the Chiddush?
Yeah, what is the Chiddush? Give me the main question.
What type of advice are we talking about?
Yeah, what is
Counsel.
Eitzah? Yeah, Eitzah. Yeah, actually, I'll use both translations, advice and counsel. I don't exactly know what the difference is. What is Eitzah?
I feel like counsel is like a bit less practically oriented.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Or like more abstract.
I hear that. To me, I think one of the differences is like advice. I feel like is only like unilateral, like it just someone gives you advice. Whereas I feel like counsel is a much more of a collaborative thing. In English, like you're taking counsel with someone. Not that it has to be that, but that's just like the implication.
I feel like it's also more like more like step by step.
Which one, counsel or advice? Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Like advice is more like here's a good idea.
Like a counselor is not just someone who gives you like one piece of advice. It's like guides you on the.
Basically, I think advice is a little more.
This is what happens when we just try to think about the.
Because I think advice is a little bit more abstract.
Right. Judgment. Passing judgment here. Yeah. I think we're just speculating. Yeah.
That's speculation. I don't know.
All right. What is Mussar in this context?
Counting you not the.
Yeah.
You didn't look those other times.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
What's the Lamont?
Yeah. What is the Laman? And I feel like that's definitely gonna be where the Kiddush, one candidate for where the Kiddush lies.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, just like very surface level, like you don't really think of. I mean, I don't really think of taking Mussar and Eitzah in order to be smart.
Yes.
I think of it in order to become good.
Okay. Yeah. So that to me is like one of the main questions here, which is like, which I don't know if this is actually. I'm gonna put this in the same question. What is Laman Hechkam? Because so you could ask it the way Joe asked it, which is, is this really the having fun there?
The chair has a broken back, so I'm burying it. So
I see. Yeah. I saw the broken back part. I didn't follow the other steps. I was not realized I know a lot. So is I guess
if I just put it there, someone's gonna take it, and it's gonna be back in circulation.
Yeah. Now this way, the only other time someone will take it is at Kriyas Megillah next year when some old woman is taking it. I'm Rosenthal more than you.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Okay. So what is Laman Tacham? So the way you said it is that you usually think of something else as the end of Mussar, right? Is this really the end of Mussar? End of Mussar sounds like such a sad day. Yeah, Mussar and Eitzah, I guess. I had a different. I think there are different questions you can ask on that Laman Tacham. Anyone else have any different? Because I was about to do something else.
You also might think that like, oh, it'll just give you like one good piece of advice to move forward, and like it's not going to necessarily change you. Maybe.
So you're saying that the Havamina is that you will not be Tach.
Like no, yeah, you're not going to be Teflon or anything.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Affect your abilities.
Yeah. I'm trying to think how to formulate these questions here. So like, let me put in the sub points here. I know you can't see any of this, but in my mind, it's a question. So, and we got that. So, is this really the end of Mussar and Eitzah? Couldn't the Laman be for something else? Okay, so that's Joe's formulation. And Zev is saying, on the other hand, maybe there is no Laman. That's not the way you said it. How do you say it?
Maybe it won't cause you to be.
Okay, maybe it won't cause you to be Tefkon, right? So in other words, what is the Hava Amina and Maskana? Yeah.
Different question, which is
a different question than the one we're on right now.
Yes.
So another way to say it, another angle to ask the question is like, and maybe I'm just getting this from like Mishlei from elsewhere. Usually in Mishlei, Chochmah and Mussar are paired. Let's say, for example, in the first pasuk in Mishlei, like the first real pasuk in Mishlei, it's well, first of all, the first mission statement pasuk in Mishlei, Ladas Chochmah and Mussar, right? That the point of Mishlei is to know Chochmah and Mussar. Those are the two subjects of Mishlei. Then you've got in 1:7, which is the first real pasuk in Mishlei. Yiras Hashem Reishis Da'as Chochmah Mussar Avilim Bazu. So you've got Yiras Hashem and then Chochmah and Mussar together, and then you've got like the definition of Yiras Hashem in Mishlei. Yiras Hashem Mussar Chochmah. So they usually go together. So I think it's weird that here it seems like Mussar is being treated as an end to Chochmah, right? So yeah, why is Mussar being regarded as an end? As a means to Chochmah, not an end to Chochmah? Why not together? Yeah.
Wait.
Oh yeah. I almost called you Eitzah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm flattered.
They usually both seen as the end.
Or they go together. I mean, either they're both a means or they're both an end. Okay. Let's say like in that opening pasuk in Mishlei, they sound like both an end or at least like a thing that is worked on together. And then in 1:7, it sounds like you need both of them in order to get Yiras Hashem. Yeah. And like Yiras Hashem is the end point, not yeah.
What's the interplay between the Eitzah and the Mussar?
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Is it you like are you like doing them separately, or is it like the Eitzah is for Mussar?
Yeah. So I'm gonna say that, and then also, so what's the relationship between the Eitzah and the Mussar?
And how does that apply to
Yeah, and both in relation to Chochmah.
And also, what's the difference between Shema and
Yes, that's another one, right? What is the difference between Shema and Kabel? Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like it could be that there actually is a difference, or those are just like the two words they use, given the nature of Eitzah and Mutter. Like, it might just, but yeah. Okay, yeah.
This is this might just be like I don't have a good sense of like the grammar here,
Mhm.
but Lamont Tachtam de Achariseta sounds like there's like some sort of like long.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Like, right? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's plain shot and Akrisacha is at your end, meaning like at a later point in your life. So then the question would be,
Why is it not happening when you do it?
yeah. So I'm gonna just add this to question number 6. If Akrisacha means at a later point in your life, or at a late point in your life, I should say, then why does it take so long? Yeah. Yeah.
Grammar question: does Lama'an is that also implying what?
I don't think so. And certainly according to the Targum, um, he uses the awkward word. I don't know why it feels awkward. Metul. But metul is also the translation of the word key, because. So I feel like because doesn't have a like prolonged thing. I can see how you can say like Lama'an, brings to mind time, but I don't think it's an intrinsic thing, or I don't think it has to. Yeah. Okay, so just to go over our questions again, we have what is Eitzah, what is Mussar in this context? What is the difference between Kabel and Shema? What is the relationship between Eitzah and Mussar, and what is the relationship of both of them in relation to the Chochmah? What is Laman Techkam? And then we split that into three ways to frame the question. Is Laman Techkam really the end of Mussar and Eitzah? Shouldn't the Laman be for something else? Or couldn't it be for something else? Second formulation is maybe it won't cause you to be Techkam. What is the Havmina Maskana? Havmina being that it's not Laman Techkam and Maskana as it is. And then third formulation is why is Mussar being regarded as a means to Chochmah? Why are they not together like they usually are? And then 6 is what is Akri Secha? If Akri Secha means at a late point in your life, why does it take so long? And then there's another translation of Akri Secha. All right, let's just keep it at that for now. And then what's the Kiddush, which is the general question in this thing. I don't even think I need to ask that.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
With Achri Techa, are we understanding it as more of a situational, or even as a later thing, as like a practical application, or more this is going back to number 5, but we're understanding Achri Techa to be more putting into application, or more just as a general way that you can think about these situations as a whole?
I don't know what you mean.
I think
Okay,
you're gonna have Chochmah in how to approach this situation again, or is it going to be Chochmah like abstract Chochmah? Is that your question, David?
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah.
Try it one more time.
Are you
Sorry.
gonna have practical, like smarts or
Yeah.
theoretical smarts?
So how is that different
Let's
than
say
what is the Chochmah?
Well, yeah, it's like let's say someone it, like cuts you off.
Yeah, which we didn't ask, by the way. We didn't ask what the Chochmah is.
Yeah.
Oh, we did what is Laman Techkam, but we didn't say what is the Chochmah. I think those should be two different questions.
Yeah.
What is
I
the
think
Chochmah?
this is an aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because let's say someone cuts you off while you're driving.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say you get advice from someone about it,
Yeah.
and then
There would definitely be something about that if Shlomo wrote this in an era of cars. Yeah.
so would you say that so is it Chochmah about how to deal with when someone cuts you off, or how to deal with when someone does something aggressive towards you?
Yeah. I still am not seeing what this has to do with Achri Sacha. To me, this is a question of what is the Chochmah. Am I missing something in your question, David?
I'm not sure what you're missing.
Now I'm confused. Meaning the way you asked the question, I just started on the wrong foot. I thought you were asking me a question about L'man tachkam ba'achri secha. But if your question is just what is the chochmah, is it theoretical or practical, then it doesn't have anything to do with achri secha. So I guess for starters, does your question have to do with achri secha, or is it just what is the chochmah?
So I guess more, yeah, what is the chochmah then?
Okay, fair question. Yeah. Okay. All right, I think those are all the questions. Yeah.
So I just want to point out,
Yeah,
Tefcom is such a great like form of that word.
it is. It is. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't usually see it. People don't usually tell me.
It's like nest cell.
So we got to take some sort of stance here on Eitzah, Mussar, and Chochmah, or otherwise we got nowhere, right? So I feel like what is a better candidate for Mussar, discipline or rebuke?
I like discipline.
Why?
I think review.
I also think rebuke. That's what I'm curious about.
Well, I give review contrast better with Eta.
Yeah, I think that's why.
Yeah. Okay. Hear that.
And it also gets us out of the question of Mussar and Chochmah needing to go together, because Mussar and Chochmah going together sounds like, in terms of a subject matter, like they're discipline and Chochmah, you can see those as being two different things. But if you're talking about like a particular, rebuke, like people like pointing out mistakes and you correcting them, so then you could see that as being separate from like Chochmah as an ideal,
Right.
So let's work with that assumption for now that Mussar is, and especially in Kabel Mussar. I mean, I guess you could say it's both, but yeah, Shema Eitzah and Kabel Mussar sounds like Kabel Mussar is much more like a particular piece of Mussar or the ability to take Mussar. Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I was recently doing this in Uploads, Margaret Eta, Margaret Tavuna.
Margaret Eitzah, Margaret Tavuna. Okay.
Yeah. And John kind of came up with an idea about that.
Well, you wouldn't be the only one who has cross pollination between Avos and Mishlei, because Rabbeinu Yonah does that all the time.
No, the thing in Uploads,
Yeah.
like it's the first time that he hasn't said anything
Yeah.
about it.
I actually think I am gonna ask you to hold off on that
Okay,
one,
yeah,
just because
no.
it's coming from outside.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
I know.
Newtonian.
I was very like hesitant.
Yeah. It might have merit, but I want.
Yeah, it's also Tavuna and not Chochmah.
Right. Yeah. I like my Mishlei ideas to be organic. Yeah. So what's the difference then between Eitzah and Mussar? And just as a fair possibility, we might not need to really define the difference. Like, there's gonna be something in common that they both have that is gonna allow us to get a general idea of the pasuk, probably. But yeah.
I have a speculative idea.
Okay.
Or not speculative. Not fully formed.
Better a speculative idea from Mishlei than a Vadai idea from Pirkei. Yeah.
That if you're listening to advice and accepting review in particular situations,
Mhm.
like you, like let's say like you're like no, something that like your friend's like good person to ask you about like will like give you good advice, so you like ask him what to do and you just like do what he says, and you're not like necessarily even like figuratively like analyzing it, and you're accepting review, and you're like and you're accepting review, like you're accepting review, and then even though you're not specifically like trying to figure out exactly what all the underlying principles are in the advice and the review, it will have an effect on you, and you'll eventually become
Okay.
eventually Tefcom.
Yeah, I hear that intuition. Yeah. Another question we should ask though is like, is this the only way to become Tefkam Ba'achari Sacha? Meaning, is he talking about like the process of development, and that if someone was not Shemea Eitzah and Mukabel Mussar, then he would not be able to be Tefkam Ba'achari Sacha? Or is this just like one of the ways, or like a more efficient way or something?
You can also, I mean, I don't, yeah, reading Mishlei, you can't have this Havamina anymore, but like before reading Mishlei,
Yeah.
you could have the Havamina that like taking advice from other people or rebuke from other people might actually like hurt your effects.
Interesting.
Your not affects your ability to make your own decisions.
Right, because it feels like you're surrendering your judgment to
Yeah,
someone else or to a principle, like an abstract principle. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting, Havamina. Yeah, that's kind of what part of what I'm wondering about is how much is this talking to someone who is like on the fence? Like, okay, well, it's definitely talking to someone who's on the fence about whether to be Shomea Eita and Mekabel Mussar. But the question is like, what's the nature of them being on the fence? Is it just that they don't know any better? Is it that they think you could do without it? Is that they're resistant to it?
Right.
Or is it they have like some like idea that, like you're saying, that makes them think that this is going to, somehow impede their Chochmah progress?
Mhm.
I'm going to throw out one possibility for Eita and Mussar, and this is also speculative, but if like you asked me to differentiate between the implication of Mussar and Eita, sounds like Mussar is much more in terms of avoiding bad, and Eita is much more in terms of obtaining good. Like if I tell you like, it's a, like if you want, to make money, then like you should go into this career. I wouldn't call that like giving Mussar, I would call it giving Eita, And I'm not saying that Eita is the opposite, like, but I'm saying if I had to make a division, it could just be, and I'm saying it could just be as simple as that, meaning like maybe Eita and Mussar are really fundamentally the same thing. It's just like two little like subcategories or something.
Right, yeah.
I wouldn't get too hung up on like making the precise definition of Eita and Mussar into a central part of the idea. That's intuitively, I think.
Also, I mean, this is similar, but if you say Musar's rebuke, I feel like rebuke needs to come from something you do. Like a person does something wrong, he gets rebuked.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas Eita can just.
That's true. So yeah, that I think if we are going to differentiate, then that would be a significant differentiation, which is the Eita can be
Descriptive.
no, I was thinking Eita can be in abstract general terms, whereas Mussar is directed at particulars that you're involved in.
Well, it's can also be particular.
It can also be particular, right? Yeah.
It's just not responsive.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I'm just talking about the positive Mussar. I think.
Yeah, that's another.
Yeah, I just think because of the fact that it's a little bit more charged, there has to be an acceptance of it with just hearing it.
Yeah, Eita you can listen to and like recognize it as a good idea. That's what like listening to Eita is. But I feel like I see what you're saying. I was gonna go somewhere, but I didn't.
Right, you could definitely like spurn Eita.
Yeah.
Just, like reject it.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than say you're not listening to it. You wouldn't say you're not accepting it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Right now my intuition is going with not really differentiating between Shema and Kabel, and
Yeah. Basically, what I'm saying is that I think the verbs pair with the.
Yeah. Let's think about the question about like why it takes so long, and maybe that'll give us insight into why you need Shmias, Eita, and Kabbalah Mussar in order to get there. And maybe thinking about in terms of the Havmina Maskana is good, or maybe just like thinking, yeah.
Why are we assuming that it takes so long?
Well, Akri Techa, I think like means not now and not soon, but at your end.
I mean, but you could say that it's saying that it's saying take the Mussar and the Eita so that you're wise at your end, and you're wise like along the whole process. But the goal is to end off wise.
Yeah,
It's not like the wisdom's going to hit you later, just for that.
So then, like,
you'll be wise.
But why do we need Akri Techa then? Why don't we just say Laman Techkan, or Techkan B'Dorachecha, or Techkan B'Chayecha? Like Akri Techa seems to be to the exclusion of soon or now.
I hear that.
Yeah.
Could I say maybe then why Achri Techa there would be, this would be a different understanding too, but whatever, if you're looking for something, you have a set goal in mind, like you have a set end that you are looking for, that this is the best way to go about to get to that end. is to
Yeah.
be one who's listening to Eitzah and accepting Mussar to get to that end.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's not saying, so are you taking a stance on the question of, is this necessary or is it just efficient? Or are you, I mean, it sounds like you're saying that it's efficient. Or maybe you weren't addressing that at all.
Not much addressing that, more building on
Okay.
what Joe was saying, or at least your
Uh-huh.
question on Joe.
So say it one more time.
That I was understanding Achri Techa not as much as like some sort of like your end of days, as much
Yeah.
as like your end if you have a certain goal that you're looking to be getting to,
Mhm.
and that this is the
Oh, I
best
see what
way
you're
about
saying.
getting
Like
to that.
objective. At your Achris.
Does N have that dual?
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, like in English it does.
Yeah.
Like you're almost using it like Paplis, right? Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I don't know enough about the biblical use of Achrisacha.
And then also we're understanding Shema Yitzhak and Kabel Mussar to be more like situation specific, or more as being like a guy who listens to Eitzah is a guy who is Kabel Mussar.
I think it's both. I think that the behavior it's talking about is listening to particular pieces of advice and listening to particular pieces of Mussar. But I think the point of the pasuk is to be a person who does this like as a regular part of their character, and then that will lead you to be tachkam b'achrisacha.
Okay.
Yeah, and practically speaking, you can't really like that's going to be the measure of whether you do this is like if you or whether you have that characteristic is if you are someone who regularly does this, seeks it out, values it, doesn't resist it. I'm going to throw a question out there also. When I was talking about this with Ken yesterday, then Ken's question that kind of like helped us think about it was like why do you need kind of like along the lines of what you were thinking about the alternatives. Why do you need to be Shema Eitzah Kabel Mussar? Why don't you just do stuff by trial and error? Like like you can learn. We learn from experience, and like maybe you should just go and like firsthand experience. And learn from your mistakes. Like why do you need to be like this? The model that seems to be suggesting is like making yourself subordinate to a certain extent in guidance from other people.
Right.
Eitzah and Mussar. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to get policy for a moment.
Okay.
So I think that falls into the trap of in Zephon Rishonim.
Okay. Yeah.
I think there's benefit from learning. There's like a lot of benefit from learning from like aggregated experiential knowledge,
Mhm.
which you can only get if you're like listening to advice and review from other people, so you can hear what they're thinking, what their experiences are.
Yeah.
If you try everything out yourself, then you'll only be able to get as wise as your experiences would take you.
Mhm. That's a good way to put it. It's funny. It's co-helping in two senses because he also tried to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess just another one. Even if you do get the same amount of knowledge as like that have gotten from
Yeah.
Mr. Nieta, you still are getting it in more like painful, like
Yeah. It's just not efficient. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that doesn't necessarily address the possible because this is saying so you become wise, and
Oh well.
it is the pain isn't necessarily going to stop you from.
No,
But the way I would read it would be you want to get wise in trial and error way, but they're saying no, this is a better thing.
Yeah. Meaning that it's just not going to end up getting there if you are very efficiently and therefore not at all.
Oh, I thought you were saying you're going to get there. You're going to get there, but in a more efficient way.
You would if you did trial and error. So you want to get you're doing trial and error, Lamont.
Yeah.
So, but the pasuk saying no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Do it less like you'll have less bad consequences overall if you just do it this way.
So that is slightly different because I thought originally you were saying that it's going to be not just more painful to do it through trial and error, but also just less efficient.
Sure.
Mhm.
Either way, but
Yeah.
This is a better, for whatever reason, this is a better way to get.
Yeah.
Because you'll get to the same end goal.
Yeah.
You'll just of being wise.
Yeah.
You'll just do it.
Right. So I think what I'm starting to see is that I think that there are many reasons why Eitzah and Mussar are the most surefire and efficient route. So one is what you're saying is that if you're not Shema, Eitzah, and Mekal and Mussar, then you're just basically cutting yourself off from valuable resources of other people's knowledge. And like, no one would say that you should do this in science. That would just be idiotic. Like, I'm just going to start all experiments myself. Like, no, obviously you rely on the accumulated knowledge from the past. So why wouldn't you do that in other areas? You know, then there's your trial and error is going to lead to a lot of failed experiments that are going to be painful and stuff. Then there's what I was saying is that it's going to be very inefficient. Like, what I was thinking of when I was talking about this with Ken is like, they say that like, so you have, okay, in my mind, there's like two paradigms. There's like Einstein, who would do thought experiments to like direct him exactly to like what he needed to figure out in order to move forward in theory. You know, on the other side, you got Thomas Edison, who burned thousands of things until something lasted, you know? So like, you know, like you just tried burning a bunch of stuff until you found the filament that lasted, you know? There's no, I mean, I'm not, you know, whatever. That's how he frames it, you know? So if you're going to do this in life, you know, like, I'm just going to try out a bunch of stuff until I figure out what the right life is in every single area of decision making. Like, it's just, there are so many ways you could go wrong. And the wrongness of a Thomas Edison is that the filament just doesn't last. But the wrongness in like life, and this gets to what you're saying also, you get consequences. The bad routes you go down can actually impede your development. You know, like it can actually like stop you from continuing to develop en route to the Chochmah. You know, there's so many bad directions that you can go in. Like, why would you do that? You know, and then I think the main thing, or I shouldn't say the main thing, but I think to me what the greatest chiddush was is like this: is if you are living life by trial and error and just like making and that's really how most people make decisions. I should say that outright, is that I don't think most people are trying to map out a life of Mussar and Eitzah in order to become a Chacham. I think they just live life, they make their decisions, they get consequences, you know, and like they learn or they don't. But what's hard about it is if I give you Mussar, let's say Mishlei Mussar, that if a fool does the X, then he'll get Y result. Okay, and that's the principle of Mussar that you are working with, or the Eitzah. If a Chacham does A, then he'll get B result, and you're operating on with that in your mind, and your actions are being done in light of that. So what happens is when you make a bad decision and you get a consequence, you identify that as like, oh, it played out the way that the Mussar said it would play out, or it played out the way that the Eitzah said it would play out. If you're doing trial and error, first of all, you might not even be aware that you're operating based on any principle, you know? And if you are looking for principles, you might identify it incorrectly. Like people do this all the time. Like let's say you get into a relationship, it ends in disaster, and you say, oh, it was because like she wasn't the right one. No, maybe it's because you were an idiot. Maybe it's because you didn't communicate. Maybe it was because like, you know, you fell for a golden ring in the snout of a pig, you know, like there could be many things. And if you're working within a framework of Mussar and Eitzah, you're looking at everything through like Mishlei eyes, and being able to make these cause and effect relationships that reinforce good behavior and deter negative behavior. If you're just operating on your own, you're not even going to make the cause and effect connections. And what this does is it primes you for Laman Tefkam Ba'achri Yisecha. Maybe I'm making a move here now. I don't know. I didn't say this with Ken, but that Tefkam Ba'achri Yisecha is looking at the world through the eyes of Chochmah, which is looking at the world through lawfulness and principles of cause and effect. So Mussar and Eitzah are the practical side of that coin. And you're basically like training yourself by relying on the Mussar and the Eitzah to like make Chochmah real to you, the fact that you're in a world of Chochmah. And if you like carve out that space in terms of your practical decisions, and you're like, you know, making your decisions based on the Eitzah and the Mussar, and like noting the benefits and noting the consequences, then it'll like chisel into your mind the like the lawful nature of the world that you're in, and then that's what a chacham is. I didn't mean to say an idea, but like that yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's a good idea. That's not what Ken and I said, but that was just what. So what it's saying then, and again, this is Mishlei Chochmah, meaning you could be a chacham in terms of abstract thinking, not through Eitzah and Mussar. There are lots of those people, right? But that's not Mishlei Chochmah. Mishlei Chochmah is Chochmah that actually affects like the way that you see the world and that you live, not just like IQ or like the ability to like, know a certain area divorced from like actual life,
So is that the addition that there is Chochmah to be had in the area of Eitzah and Mussar?
I don't think that that's the chiddush. I think the chiddush is that the only way to become a chacham is to be implementing the Eitzah and Mussar and subordinating yourself to that. Because I think here, maybe this is it. Maybe the fantasy is that you could become a chacham without actually like, I think that's not a tough read. The fantasy is you can become a chacham without going through the Eitzah and Mussar route. And the mistake in that fantasy is that that's treating Chochmah as just like a purely intellectual phenomenon, And again, in Chochmah Satorah, in Chochmah of science, math, whatever, like you can have that kind of thing. But in the Chochmah of like life, to be a Chochmah in terms of the way you live, you can't have that. Mussar is a prerequisite. Mussar and Eitzah are prerequisite, and it's not a prerequisite just in terms of learning it. It's a prerequisite of like following it, and shaping your psyche in accordance with it. That's why, like in the intro to Mishlei, then this might even be a midrash actually, but the meforshim quoted Ladas Chochmah Mussar. Chochmah is put first because Chochmah is the true perfection, but Mussar has to come first in time, in terms of like developmentally. Like you need to like pave the path for Moses. This is also why like Chazal would not, let people into the base midrash if they had bad midos. Back then that didn't work out so well for numbers, but yeah. So that's an idea.
Maybe this is like an alternative way to take it.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's a valid read, but could you say maybe that the Mussar and the Eitzah basically enables you to engage in Chochmah? Meaning, like, if you can have a system that follows, already existing Mussar, you don't need to bother dealing with all these, like, obstacles because you already have it paved out. And then because that's not a burden for you, you can just devote more time towards Chochmah. So it's not that these things are directly causing the Chochmah, it's that they enable you to spend time with Chochmah.
Yeah, okay, so I like that as a division of two ways to read the pasuk. So like you're looking at the Mussar and Eitzah almost in the same way that we look at, I hope this doesn't complicate things, the same way that we look at like the brachos and klalos in the Torah, meaning that they're facilitators of your being involved in the true life. Meaning we don't hold, for example, that when God provides rain in its proper time, then the rain is necessary, like that you can't learn without rain. No. It's that if there's rain, then you'll have crops and you won't have to worry about your food. And like, it'll like free up time and energy and space for you to be involved in like true pursuit. It's basically like clearing away like the chores and distractions so you can be involved in this. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, meaning if a person is like, let's say someone values Chochmah, but let's say they're involved in pursuing like, whatever, like greed and like lying and like their relationships are with contentious women, and like all of the stuff that Mishlei is trying to get you away from, inevitably that's going to detract from their ability to be pursuing Chochmah. There's just so much other stuff that they have to deal with, and this clears it away. Yeah, that's a good point. Sure. And what would the Akri Secha be there? Because I think
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I think there's potential there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is pursuing Chochmah like a Mishlei?
I don't know. Definitely, according to many of the meforshim, it is. Like Rabag seems to hold that Chochmah is like what we mean by Chochmah in general, like Chochmah Satorah, Chochmah of science, Chochmah of metaphysics. Whereas other meforshim, like Rabbeinu Yonah, a lot seems to hold that when it says Chochmah and Mishlei, it's like Mishlei Chochmah of like learning good, like decision-making things and Rosa Nolad.
Okay.
So it's definitely a valid interpretation. It's even
right. So how does theoretical Chochmah fit into Mishlei?
So that's if you say that that the purpose of Mishlei is to include. So like my approach to Mishlei is really based on Sadigon, which is it's about everyday decision making. But Meiri and Ralbag and others hold that it's really about all perfection, or it can potentially touch upon all perfection. you know, so according to them, it's part of the subject. Yeah, according to me, it's not as much part of the subject.
Okay.
I wouldn't exclude it, but like, and certainly I would hold it in the derech nister. It is part of the subject.
Right.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? The Achri Secha thing, like, might just be as simple as you need to set this up in order to have a life where you're involved in Chochmah. Meaning that life is not going to just like coalesce on its own. Like unless you take conscious, deliberate efforts to work on Eitzah and Mussar, like now, like let's say you want a life where you're going to be involved in Chochmah, like in, you know, when you're in your prime or when you're in your old age or whatever. You can't just expect that to come together if you don't like live a life of Mussar and Eitzah now and set it up that way. It's just not going to happen, you know?
Meaning like you can just like sort of like like whatever live like it whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but for practical purposes, like you were saying, you know, meaning that like if, let's say for example, let's say in terms of your money habits, you act like a fool. So then you're not going to have a retirement fund to like be able to like sit there and like learn Chochmah. Or like let's say you don't discipline your kid, so you're going to be when you get home from work, you're going to have to like deal with all the messes that your kid made, and you're going to have to clean up after that. And you're going to be in a state of anguish because of that. You know, like you need to invest in Chochmah now through Mussar and Eitzah.
And not right. So would you think that you can just spend like just study Chochmah and then like that would be the way to
That's a good question. That I want to give some more. I want to give some more thought to that about what the Havamina is.
Okay.
I also want to point out though now because we're almost done is Ken's idea was kind of like yours, but in terms of taking the subject the way that I did, which is that a person sees that being a chacham is a valuable life, but right now when they're young, they just want to be involved in like they don't want to be involved in Chochmah or they want to be involved in Taiva or whatever. So they say, "Oh, I'll do it when I'm older." But there's a reason why. The way Ken said it is like there's a reason why all the Chachamim you see around you are older. You know, it's because it takes a lot of time to become that, and you can't just like say, "Well, I'll fritter away my youth in like Taiva and time wasting all this other stuff," and then like later I'll just decide to be a chacham. Like, no, you got to start like working on it now, and like in order to get to the point where you are a chacham when you're in your older age, because you can't like start it then, you know. Yeah, let's come back to this tomorrow and look at some meforshim, but then probably transition into the next pasuk, which will take on its own, and then we'll see if they go together. Because I think there's still more to think about here, but I think these are good approaches so far.
What about learning the previous?
Oh yeah, we got to do that also. Yeah, Ravina, Yona, and Miri connected to the previous ones. Yeah. Alrighty.
Thank you.
David.